which as yet I think most people don't touch upon. One is the fact that the Quad was formed essentially in response to China's aggressive policies, but the Quad countries have refrained from making any collective statement or pointed statement towards China's aggressive expansionist policies. So what they come out with is a kind of very lukewarm set of ideas, bilateral trade, technical engagement, sharing of various other common technologies, but nothing specific to countering China. Second is, India is the only country amongst the Quad countries that shares a border with China and is facing a hostile China. As we have seen, since the Galwan incident, China has refused to back off. Thirdly, the Quad meeting being held in Hiroshima was a great idea, but I think the Quad leaders have to step up to the challenge. They can't keep going in circles and saying that we'll do this and that. We will address a number of issues that are of bilateral concern, but we'll not collectively address the issue of how to tame China or restrict China. And China has been browbeating everybody to fall in line. The next point is, as far as Quad is concerned, Quad is essentially a collective arrangement with 4 countries that have very clearly made known their hostility towards China.
Okay, it's very interesting you mentioned China. I also want to take in a word from Sushant Sareen. Mr. Raza, stay on with us because, reports do suggest, Mr. Sareen, that the Prime Minister in an interview to a Japanese publication has said that peace and tranquility in the border areas is essential for normal bilateral ties with China. Now, with a tightly packed schedule and comes the confirmation of the Quad meet also that will take place tomorrow itself in Hiroshima. How do you see this playing out?
No, I think the script is pretty much written. I don't think India is backing down from taking on China. I think our position on the Chinese aggression along the frontier is pretty clear. It's been made clear on a number of occasions by the Prime Minister, by the Foreign Minister, by the Defense Minister, by the government in general. So I think that's a no-brainer, how we stand vis-a-vis China. Even in relation to the Quad, I personally would be inclined more in favor of a more robust kind of a military alliance than what it is right now. But even then, I think the Quad countries are moving in a certain direction, and clearly that spooks the Chinese, and that is why concerns are being expressed. So I think on the Quad, we are doing fine. I would agree to some extent with Maroof, I believe it was, who was speaking earlier.
Yes.
I would agree with him that on technology and other things, we could want more. But I think, we need to be realistic on how much technology is going to be shared because nobody really parts with technology. But I think the G7 meeting is also going to be important going forward, both because I think India has an opportunity to plug the agenda for the G20, which will be held later in India. And in fact, this is one of the reasons why India has been invited, because India is the chair of the G20. But along with it, it's very clearly laid down that they are looking at, the G7 countries are looking at Indo-Pacific security. Which kind of fits in very well with our larger strategic orientation. But then there is, of course, the Ukraine issue, where I think there could be some pressure which will be on India. I believe the Prime Minister has had a meeting with Mr. Zelensky today. But I think, again, on Ukraine, India's position is very clear. We are not backing one side or the other. We would very much want peace to be restored, but I don't think anybody really has as a solution to the crisis as of now. Because most of the solutions which are being forwarded are either unacceptable to Ukraine or to Russia. And nobody has been able to find a middle ground which both the protagonists would be satisfied with. And then, of course, there are other countries which seem to be egging on Ukraine for some valid reasons and some not so valid reasons to continue taking on the Russians. And the Russians have their own issues with the Ukrainians. So it's a right royal as far as the European or the Eurasian theater is concerned. But I think there is more to look forward to as far as Indo-Pacific is concerned for India.
Well, we're likely to get lots of news points over the next 2 days, that's for sure. Mr. Raza, would you want to come in? Because interestingly, Sushant Sareen is also, shedding light on the Ukraine-Russia war and remember how the G7 members have already spoken of sanctions. They're mulling on more sanctions. They want to hurt the Russian economy. And in that sense, India in attendance, there are going to be several bilaterals that are going to take place as well. But what India maintains and the stand it takes on the, Russian aggression against Ukraine, that's also something that everyone is watching out for.
Right. And Mr. Sareen has made some very interesting points. The first thing to understand is that the primary purpose of G7 is basically to get the world economy on a stronger footing, because 45% of the world's economy is rested on the shoulders of G7 members. But they tend to be trying to use this forum as a platform to muster more and more support against Russia. Problem is the European countries are a bit reluctant to confront Russia because of their own double standards. The second thing is that the G7 is also not having China in attendance. To that extent, they'll have a free run at finger pointing at China.
And the messaging is loud and clear, Mr. Raza. A Japanese ambassador to India has said it clearly that we must send a clear message to Putin. Russia will pay the price for Ukraine war. So that is the sentiment that exists all across G7 and India in attendance. Very interesting what's lined up for us. We head into a very short break. Mr. Sareen, Mr. Raza, please stay on with us. We'll be right back.